And one characteristic about a country that debases its currency and goes to a paper currency, the currency always self-destructs. It always ends. Well, the fiat means that it is declared by government that this is money, it's paper and it's money, and it's by government declaration. Where if you use a gold coin, the value comes from the marketplace, and government can't reproduce this, so it's always exchangeable, and the people will accept it. If this is sunk on a boat in a ship, now, or it was 500 years ago, you dig it up, it has tremendous value. There will be numismatic value plus the real value of gold. This sinks, you put it to the bottom, and who cares? You know, this loses probably 5 to 10% a year in value. So it's very, very destructive. And that's why it's so important to have real money. And the other important reason, other than the economic reason, is it restrains government. If we had hard money and we had to pay our bills, we would have to tax everybody for the entitlement system and the war. Taxes would double, maybe. I mean, there would be a huge increase in taxes. The other thing I would like to do is make everybody pay on a monthly basis. Mainly not to annoy them. This is what you're paying for government. And the government's not allowed to spend any money other than what they take, and they have to get out of this business of financing big government. Because when you do this, when you have this right to print money, you produce big government, and the government does the wrong things, always at the expense of individual liberty. In a capitalistic society, one should work for subsistence, and what's left over becomes capital, and that's what they save. They either reinvest it or somebody else reinvests it, and they put it in a savings account. But because of our monetary system, we have created a disincentive to save. There's no incentive to save because the dollar is constantly depreciated, and we're taught to spend the money because consumers drive the economy. And you would say, well, if they don't save, how can you get so much money? How can you go out and buy a house today? And even though mortgage rates have crept up some, still 5% is astoundingly low. Well, it's all artificial. It's not real credit in the sense of it's coming from savings. It's coming from our monetary system, the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve has been given the power and the authority by our Congress, in contrary to the Constitution, to create money out of thin air. That's essentially what they do. They've created a system where we as politicians are rewarded by spending money because that's how we get reelected. We spend the money and we pass out the goods, and people say, oh yeah, he's an effective congressman. And then they give you lower taxes. There's no taxes. We will just print the money. And the Federal Reserve doing this creates it, in addition to the fractional reserve banking system, it is magnified. If the Fed creates $1 billion out of thin air and puts it in as a reserve, eventually that turns into $8 billion. They're price fixers are what they are. So the Federal Reserve makes credit available, but in a way it's fraudulent and it's theft because it does have value. You know, if you go to the bank and they give you $1 million, we all take it, but it becomes valuable only by diluting the value of somebody else who's holding money. If there are those who are left saving money, they're being robbed because their value of their dollar is going down. At the same time, you get cheap credit because you get the $1 million. And of course, the people who benefit the most in this system are those who get the money first. And those are usually the wealthy people. So the characteristic of a country that depreciates its currency is one that's destined to destroy their middle class. So if you're in the rich class and you're in the banking elite, or you're in the military-industrial complex, or you want to run a deficit because you're going to fund special interest groups, then you like this system. But it's ironic that some who believe that you have to give welfare to everybody to take care of it, rich welfare and poor welfare, are literally really hurting the poor, because it's a tax on the poor. They don't pay income tax, but they pay the inflation tax, and it hurts the poor and low middle income especially, because they end up with an inflation rate. Price inflations go up much faster than those of the rich, and the rich usually don't care. So it is a tax, and the easy credit is very seductive. Politicians love it. The people who get to use it love it. Few people understand it, and I think we're going to have a collapse before they come around to really thinking seriously, about monetary policy and why we have to revamp it. Recently, we have seen the dollar go down sharply. I think it's going to continue, and hopefully it'll wake the people up and find out you have to have honest money and follow the Constitution, because it says only gold and silver can be legal tender. If you have a silver dollar, you can't pay your income tax with this. Matter of fact, this says $1 on it. Even a Federal Reserve note, you can't take and pay your income tax on. They want it electronically, this whole notion that you have legal tender. If you have a privately minted silver ounce and you tried to transact a business transaction with that, you can go to jail. I mean, you're breaking the law. And yet the Constitution said gold and silver are legal tender, and it's the only thing that could be legal tender. So, we have a lot of problems in this country: economic, monetary, foreign policy, and yet we fail, once again, back to education, we fail to look at the guide. Not only is it a guide for us and advice for us, it's the law of the land. It's the rule of law, it's the Constitution. So you say, well, let's say the economy gets much worse and we have a lot of inflation and, all kinds of things. Well, we have to do something. Just look to the Constitution. We'll find an answer. If somebody thinks, well, we're doing too much overseas and spending too much money and our foreign policy is not successful, look to the Constitution. Is there any authority for Congress to give the president authority to start wars when he pleases? That doesn't exist, and we do that endlessly. So it's so simple. The Constitution is so neat and thin and easily read, we ignore it.